Good afternoon. How are we feeling? Are we good? There was some really good cake out there. I had this thing with I don't know if it was caramel or condensed milk, but whatever it was amazing. Would have been a little bit better with Vegemite. Anyway, my name's Tejas. That's pronounced like contagious, or in light of current events, maybe advantageous is the one I should go with. But you get the idea. It's not it's not like John, right? It's an exotic-ish name. So little mnemonic to help you. I work at a company called G2I, and what we do at G2I, what I do at G2I is we just try to be good news to the internet. There's a ton of bad news around everywhere. Just open Twitter, right? But we try to kind of find people who want work and find companies who want them and just matchmake. And I love the work we do, but really, if I'm honest with myself and with you, what I love the most is the people that I do it with. These people, I'm telling you, I go to work every day and I'm like, how can kindness of this level exist? But we're not here to talk about that. We are here to talk about REST and GraphQL and stuff. Before I continue, though, I need to say, I don't think there's anyone here in this room that's having as good a time as I am. Seriously, so this conference has been, I think, one of the best conferences I've ever been to in my whole life. Now, I came from Germany, so it was like a 34-hour journey. But I came here, and I have family here, so I got to see my parents and stuff, and now I get to see all my friends, and we get to talk about code. It doesn't get much better. So yes, I am here to talk about REST and GraphQL and stuff, but really, I'm just here to spread the love. We're going to talk about open source. Thank you. We're gonna talk about open source, but I want you to look at this talk through the lens of open source as a labor of love. I receive nothing for creating something for free and then giving it to you, right? And so it's literally love-driven. And so in preparing this talk, I thought long and hard, what is the best way to express these ideas? What is the best way to show you these things? What is the best way to talk about REST in a GraphQL world? And I believe the way that would resonate the best with all of us in this room is through narrative, through a story. And so let's go down this rabbit trail. I should, before I get into it, this idea of spreading the love came from my Uncle Raymond, who, if you're watching the live stream, love you. Anyway, story time. So this story begins where all great and noteworthy stories start, with JavaScript. and it's good. It's with JavaScript. And so the context is I was working a previous job, and we had a code base that developed over many years with JavaScript. And it was good. Our customers loved it. We even, I think, made profit on it. But eventually, what happens. Time showed up. And over time, our code base grew and grew and grew until it was an aged code base. It was old, and for sure, there's always something to refactor, right? How many of you know there's not a perfect product ever, right? There's always something to optimize. There's always something to refactor. The only problem is, given the nature of JavaScript, we struggled. We struggled deleting code because we didn't know what else we would break. I was talking to someone here. And they mentioned I never delete code in my JavaScript projects. I only comment it out. Because I learned that lesson once before, and so this is where we were. We were feature frozen, but against our own will, right? And so this is the part in my talk where I come to you and say, hey, I love JavaScript, but perhaps there might be something better. But we need to pause here, and we need to acknowledge the meme king. Dalgleish, where are you? There he is. So this tweet, how do you know if someone uses TypeScript? Don't worry, he'll tell you. I'm here to tell you that today. And I don't look at you like this, though. I'm not going to ask if you don't use TypeScript, why are you the way you are? But I am going to tell you about TypeScript as though I was a beggar who was hungry and I found bread. You hear what I mean? And so TypeScript. we found TypeScript. We used TypeScript. So this product that we built that we loved was amazing, but we couldn't, in good conscience, iterate on it anymore. So we actually had to rewrite it. And so we decided, okay, it's a rewrite. Let's go with TypeScript. Let's see what it's about. This was about the time where Flow and TypeScript were kind of competing, almost. we went with TypeScript because we couldn't understand Flow's output. The errors were a little bit hard to parse. And I don't say that to criticize, it is how it was. And it proved valuable. Oh my goodness, we saw benefit after benefit. We could confidently refactor. We could confidently delete things. Our bundles became smaller. And instead of telling you about it like every other TypeScript programmer, I'm gonna actually show you some of the ways TypeScript was able to add value to us. Now, this conference I love. I genuinely have such a good time here because I've rarely been to a conference where there has been this much focus on design systems and CSS and styling in general. And I think that's just an amazing thing. And we're no exception. So at this job that I worked at, we had a design system. It was, in my opinion, the best, though I'm a little bit biased. It helped us significantly. And for documentation of this design system, we used something called React Styleguideist. How many of you know what Styleguideist is? OK, that's about 40%. Styleguideist is a tool that will take Markdown, like a README file, parse it, and then give you like interactive code playgrounds and documentation. And again, instead of talking about it, I'll just show it to you. So let's exit out of the presentation. Let's go over here. So this is the documentation of our design system. It's called operational UI. It's kind of an embarrassment with bundle size, I'm not going to lie, but it was mostly for internal tools. That's no excuse. But this is an older version. So if we look at, on this side, we have the names of different components, and we get documentation for them. So if I go to button, you'll see some text and living examples and a code playground here. So if I click on view code, I can kind of see the code, and it updates, right? So if I say button color equals, let's do red, and so it's red, and I can change it to, I don't know, I love Jed, and it works. It's living. The problem though is it doesn't reflect the actual component. Well, and what I mean by that is I could add here prop that does not exist, and I could say cheese, right? And this is invalid, but there's no indication here that it's invalid. Just kind of, this is also a weakness of JavaScript. It just kind of just says, yeah, whatever, cool. Now, this entire page through Styleguideist was generated from Markdown. And so I'd like to show you, so if I go to GitHub, actually let's just go here. This is a newer version with a source code link, because it's open source. And if we go here in the source, there is all of these components here you see are a one-to-one mapping of the components here. And their readmes create the docs website. So this readme here is parsed into this. Literally, it's the same text. So this text is taken and evaled in the browser and run. And that's how it works. But we thought, can we do better? Can TypeScript help our documentation? And the news is it can. So what we did was we took how many of you use VS Code in this room? Kind of all of you. So if you've used VS Code, even if you don't use TypeScript, you would have probably benefited from its IntelliSense, they call it. It's this like red squiggly underlines that tell you stuff's wrong, don't do it. We took the underlying editor from VS Code, it's called Monaco, and we put it in our documentation. And since it's a TypeScript project, we get those benefits. So if I go here, this is the new version, it's major version 18. If I go here, it's the exact same README, as you can see, but the editor is a little bit different. This is VS Code's editor. And so now if I try to do something, wrong, it'll just tell me. So I'll go here, I'll say button invalid prop equals no. And it says, whoa, you can't do that. That prop doesn't exist. But more than that, it tells me what does exist. So let's explore this API a little bit. So we're working with this first button here. And it says press Alt plus space for available props. So I'm just going to do that here. And I see all of the props available to me in the browser. This documentation is live. What can I do? Well, I can say, OK, this button is full width. Bam, I have a full width button. I can say this button is, well, I see loading here. I'm going to click that. And just like that, I get a spinner. So it tells me what I can do. Now, if I go to other, this is throughout the entire code base. So I could go to avatar, which is just a little like name avatar type thing. And I could say, I don't know, I could say size, right? Size, and I could give it maybe a pixel value, 4,000 pixels. Doesn't work. Oh, am I using it wrong? Do I need to look at the docs? These are the docs. And so number is not assignable to what? Small, extra small, or medium. And so if I do this, I get even auto-completion on what I can do. And you can just watch it update here in real time. So I choose medium, bam. I choose extra small, it is extra small. I choose small, and so on. So our documentation through TypeScript is now living. And this has been, for our consumers, this has been invaluable. And I want to publicly actually praise also Mark with a Playroom that does this. If you saw his demo, it's just autocomplete all over the place. I believe this is the future. And this is the way TypeScript has added value to our design system. Now, we don't have the time to go into all the details of how we took VS Code's editor and put it in the browser and did all that stuff, but I did do a talk at React Finland last year, and that's available to go watch if you're interested in that stuff. It requires some gymnastics with code. You know, you simulate a file system in the browser and stuff. It's pretty wacky. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about TypeScript. And I hope I've shown you some ways that it's been able to add value to us. I'm going to spend the remainder of this talk showing you more ways it saved us time and boosted our productivity and really helped us. And we'll do that in the context of data communication. So we're using TypeScript. Our app is really good. We're refactoring. We're deleting. Nothing's breaking. We couldn't even trigger runtime exceptions. Like, we added Sentry to log exceptions, and then we were like, oh, how do we test this now? Like we couldn't cause any exceptions because everything was covered with types and good. And our app, we saw no error reports. It was amazing, except at the network layer. So we would receive things from the back end. We would expect foo, we would get bar, you know what I mean? Sometimes the back end just didn't hold up its deal. And so it's classic. You have your front end team going, you know, product manager goes to the front end, why is it broken? We say, hey, it's the back end, right? And this is where things would break. Our app would explode. Our error boundary would kick in. People would see bugs. And we would be very sad. Because we want to take pride in our work. We want to create things that we can talk about at conferences and say, hey, there's no runtime exceptions. But how do we do this? So at the time, we were using REST. And as it turns out, REST is not very good. And so we're engineers, though. We can't just say things like, you can't just say it's not good. You have to, I wish there was one word that we used more in our teams. REST is not very good because a couple reasons. Number one, it's not a formal specification. Like, there is no living document that says this is how you implement a REST API. Now we have semantics. We have post, put, patch, get, delete, 200, 201, 300, 302, 500. So we have these things, but there isn't a formal specification that says what they mean. And so, like, if I have to ask you, hey, our user has no access to this thing, what should the status code be? 401 because they are unauthorized? Should it be 403 because they're forbidden? Should it be 404 because they shouldn't even know it exists? What's the policy? And so that leads to a ton of guessing games. You guess things. And where the back end makes assumptions, and then the front end makes assumptions about their assumptions, what happens? Bugs. But my biggest problem with REST is that it just leads to a ton of meaningless discussions. And when I say meaningless, I mean, should this be a put or a patch? I have a tip for you. Your users do not care. I don't see anyone sitting in a train with inconsistent Wi-Fi going, I wonder, was that a put or a patch? But we talk about it in our engineering teams. What should this be? I don't care. Number 4, the fundamental issue with REST is there's just no contractual agreements. There isn't a way for the backend to say, hey, this is what I'm going to send you. There isn't a way for the front end to say, thanks, I got you. There's no friendship there. There's segregation. There's discrimination. How can we fix it? Now, the moment where I decided we need to do something was when I had to ask this in a Slack conversation. This was not yesterday, this was a screenshot from a long time ago. But still, so you create something with a put. And at that point, I was just no thank you. REST, you are not what I need. Now, thankfully, there is work being done in this space. There was an incredible talk by Petch just before this one that was incredible. I have to publicly say thank you. Can we actually give her a round of applause? That was an incredible talk. I watched it and I was like, especially given the context of my talk, I was like, oh my gosh, yes. GraphQL is very, if you've watched her talk, I don't even need to do the spiel with you. GraphQL is very good. But because we're engineers, it's very good because, number one, it is a formal specification. Yes, the name is Graph Query Language, but it isn't just a program. It isn't just a language for queries. It isn't just like a protocol. It's a document. It is a document that is a specification. And because it's a specification, it says, do it this way. You know what that does? That means you don't have to guess. That means if you want to implement an API, it's ready. Do it. If you do have to guess, it is an open source specification, meaning if you have some interesting edge case that isn't covered by the spec, you can contribute back to it. You can say, hey, I have this thing. This is how we solved it. Can we augment the spec? Yes, you can. It's open source. That means less guessing games for the rest of the world. Number three, we actually now have meaningful discussion. We don't talk about post, put, pat. No, what we're talking about, should we cache this? Should we lazy load? Should we defer this thing? Do these, yes or no, do these decisions affect your end users? They do. Are these valuable discussions? Yes, they are. And GraphQL allows for that. And lastly, it enforces strong, because you start with the schema, as Petch so eloquently said. It enforces strong contractual agreements. Now, what we looked at is these are just purely the developer experience benefits of GraphQL, right? We have these discussions of should we cache this and so on. That's developer experience. If I was to talk about the user experience benefits of GraphQL, we'd be here all day. I could go off slide. I could just, that would be the whole talk. It is very, very valuable. And so I think I made my point. GraphQL is very good. GraphQL is very good. Now, I spend a lot of time at a lot of conferences talking to a lot of people. And I was once, I think it was a GraphQL conference, and there was an entire talk, so like 35 minutes, about how do I convince my manager to adopt GraphQL. 35. And so I was like, what? You need a talk for this? And so like, I've heard the conversation. It goes like this. You go to your manager, your team lead, your CTO, whatever, and hi, we want to add a GraphQL service. And what's the response? Oh, well, we can't because reasons. And what are the reasons? I've heard these stories, and I've seen some of them with my own eyes. Reason number one, we don't trust JavaScript for an API. I mean, it's JavaScript. I mean, come on. I mean, you would use JavaScript to add a little like clock that follows your cursor over the screen, right? That you would use JavaScript for drop-downs, MooTools, jQuery. But an API? Or how about this one? We already have an API team, and they're busy. They have just look in Jira, right? Where's my Atlassian people at? Or number three, we just don't have time for that right now. We're super busy shipping RESTful APIs that break. Or lastly, we just need to ship. And so at this point, you go, come on. We see the benefit. And at some point, it's not just you. It's your entire team that's going, oh, come on. We believe in this. Why can we not implement it? Now, I found myself in this circumstance. This was a constraint. For whatever reason, way above me, we had to continue using REST. Now, I want to pause here. There was a talk earlier by Mitchell. I loved this talk. 18 years old. Oh my goodness. I need to publicly go. That was incredible. If you weren't here, you missed out. Watch it on the video. It was incredible. It's always awkward to drink water because all of you are looking at me while I drink. Anyway, so you go, okay, this is a constraint. What do we do? Now, with constraints, here's a big takeaway from this talk. I want you to, if you're on your phone, tweet it. If you're not on your phone, pay attention. Look at me. In the face of constraints, you can either get bitter or you can get better. You understand? And so thankfully, my team was like, look, we don't like REST. What can we do about it? How can we get better? And that led to an idea. We decided, let's start a side project. Because you see, we worked with GraphQL. We loved GraphQL, mainly for the guarantees. We didn't have any errors with GraphQL. We loved the Apollo project, an open source foundational piece of amazing software. I'm doing a lot of public applause. They deserve it. GraphQL, incredible. Client, server, engine, it's just an amazing piece of software. And so we loved it, and we decided, let's create something like that, but for REST. And that's what we did. We call it RESTful React. And it's the same API as Apollo, but without the type safety, sadly. And I'd love to show it to you right now. So what I have running is a little project here. I'm just going to go ahead and code insiders it. I like living on the edge. And I believe it's already running. So what we're going to do is we're going to go split screen. And I believe it's localhost 8081. Nice. OK. Hello, React Conf AU. It's a basic React app with nothing really special about it. Let's add RESTful React to this thing and see how it's similar. So we'll go here. And step one with RESTful React is you need to wrap your app in something to give it context. So we'll go ahead and let's see if TypeScript would help me out. So we'll say RESTful. OK, it doesn't want to help me out. Great. Import something from RESTful React. And we will import the RESTful provider. This thing gives it context. And we'll just do that. And what we can see is already TypeScript is helping me out. It's like, hey, look, base is missing. You need this prop. You need to tell us which HTTP host you're talking to. So we'll say, OK, great. I'm going to talk to my favorite API in the whole world, the dog API. And so now that my app has context, I'll go in here. And what I'll do is I'll use a hook. So we have a hook. It's called useGet. And we have usePost, useMutate is the other one. But we have useGet. And I will, again, it's going to help me out and say, hey, you need to fetch something from a path. Path is missing. So I'll go ahead and add that. Breeds image random, I believe, is the. I've memorized the dog API. Yeah. And so we'll just add a quick image here to see if it works. Good boy src is I get something from here. So let's say data. And actually, I'll just make sure I have data before I do that. Data dot, I think it's message. And notice, I just guessed that it's message. That's really important. And so now what we should see is perfect. It works. It's working nicely. And every time I reload, I get a random dog. But I had no idea. That's a little disturbing. That's better. I had no idea that this was message. So if I'm, if I'm misinformed, I could type massage, maybe. And then I'm like, oh no, why is it not working? And there's nothing to help me. Now this is where TypeScript helps me out. So I go here and I use, it's called a type argument or a generic. And I say, no, I expect something with message, and message should be a string. And now it knows. And it's like, dude, message massage doesn't exist. Do you mean message? I get autocompletion. Yes, I mean message. And everything's fine. I literally cannot stuff this up. And this code will never reach my users if it's broken. It'll just fail ahead of time. And so that's already a nice way we were able to get some safety. But, my friends, is that enough? Kind of. Can we do better? You see, because in the beginning we said REST is just not good because all these reasons. We've been over this. But that last one is kind of not entirely true. There are some contractual agreements. There's something called OpenAPI, which, again, Petch, amazing talk. It's a long document that describes all your possible routes with all the methods, with all the status code. This is a 35,000 at least line of JSON or YAML. It looks like this, which good luck reading that. And so we were like, okay, so we have this thing. How can we use it? Can we use it? And my coworker, Fabien, he's French, loves wine and cheese. Although I don't mean to enforce stereotypes. But he is one. Anyway, he was like, you know what we should do? Let's do some code gen. Let's take this file as input and just output. And I was like, okay, you can just output type definitions. He was like, no, let's output React hooks. And that, my friends, is what I'd like to show you today. So RESTful React also exposes a command line interface, or a CLI. So right here in the terminal, I will yarn RESTful React import. Oh, oops, I have a typo. React import, and I'm just going to autofill this. And you can actually just go ahead and fetch this file off GitHub. You don't even need to have it locally. GitHub username, GitHub repo, branch, and file path. And you tell it where you want to save it. So I've created an OpenAPI specification document for the Giphy or Jiffy, depending on how you say it, API. I'll run this, and just like that, that's it. In case you blinked, I'm sorry you missed it. But look, I have right here, I have a new file, this green thing, api.tsx. What is this? A whole bunch of stuff I don't care about. And so it just lives there. It's fine. I don't need to deal with that. But with that, I can now use this thing in a fully type-safe way. And here, I'm here to show you that today. So what I'll do is I'll go to index, and I'll change this. I'm no longer speaking to dog CEO. I am speaking to Giphy, api.giphy.com/v1. Okay? So I've changed. This is going to fail, understandably so. And now, check this out. I'm going to go here to my app, and instead of this use get, I'm going to do something else. I'm going to import something from my new API file. But what am I going to import? Now, we said this generates React hooks. How do I find hooks? What am I looking for? How do hooks, what's the word that starts hooks? What? I'm just going to stay here until someone answers me. Use. So we type use. And this is all from the Giphy API, just directly here. I don't need to look anywhere. It's just there. So I will use a random GIF, and I will destructure whatever I get back. Use random GIF. And does it want anything? It's good. OK, and I get back data. Now watch this. I will call this GIF response, actually. OK. And now it's like, look, message doesn't exist anymore. Well, what does? It's actually GIF response. What does? OK, dot. Look at this. This is from some API somewhere right here in my editor. It's end-to-end type safety with data fetching. So what I want is images, dot original, dot URL, I believe. And all of this optional chaining, everything is just there for free. And I'm going to save that. And does it work? It doesn't. Why doesn't it work? Because I'm not authenticated. So Giphy requires a query param from my access token. So I'll add query params, API key. And this, I'm going to need you to cover your eyes for a second, because look, I even blurred it out. How cool is that? So I'm just going to, let's see if I can paste this and then scroll away quickly. Oh, OK, good. OK, are we ready? I'm just going to save this now. And there you go. There you end-to-end. End-to-end type safety. And look at this. Let's just, why not? You know, instead of use random GIF, I could just say use random sticker, save. And if the API is the same, bam. OK, that's maybe suggestive. Let's do something else. Anyway, I love this talk because it's so unexpected, but you get the idea. So let's get back to it. My friends, what we've achieved, end-to-end type safety with a REST API. I could code an entire user interface and not even leave the editor. That's kind of ridiculous. But that's what we did in light of the constraints. Now I'm going to wrap up. Let's talk some takeaways. There's only 3, but these are 3 that I believe are fundamental and very important to me personally, but I think to us as a community. Number 1, let's innovate against constraints. Constraints are amazing. We need to understand this. Constraints, we sometimes don't like them. How many of you have like a ESLint rule you think is garbage? Yeah, that's right. Me too, but sometimes the constraints lead to innovation. Jason Miller, author of Preact, is someone I really appreciate because he'll be like 700 bytes. Let's start with this file size and innovate against that. Constraints can be incredible for coming up with some groundbreaking things. So let's value them. Number 2, you could get bitter, you could get better. But one letter makes a big difference. I personally want to make the commitment to choose better over bitter. And lastly, this one is really important to me because this is not the first time I do this talk. And every time I speak about some open source project that I've created, there's, you'd expect there's a lot of issues, there's a lot of involvement. And sometimes I open my notifications, I look at this mountain, and then I go, I can't. I get overwhelmed and quit, and keeps me from actively maintaining things. Now, one way to support that could be to open collective or donate or do something. But open source, I think, while it has so much to contribute, sometimes we don't really support people. So I'd encourage us to support open source a little bit more. And with that, I want to say thank you so much for having me. This has been such an incredible experience. Appreciate you very much.